Okay, imagine this. Someone commits a major crime, right? And then boom, they're across an international border, vanished for years. We're talking about the long chase. What happens when someone just disappears for, say, a decade?
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into one specific case that, honestly, it just shows incredible persistence by law enforcement across borders. It's the story of Sattar Khan. He was a 52-year-old driver originally from Hyderabad in India. Back in 2013, he was implicated in the murder of his wife in the UAE. But here's the thing, he wasn't actually arrested until 2022. 12 years. We're going to unpack that whole period. How does someone stay hidden that long? And how do investigators finally catch up?
Yeah, this case, it's a really fascinating example of just how complex cross-border investigations can get, especially when the trail goes cold almost instantly. Usually investigators rely heavily on those first, 48 hours?
Right, the golden hours?
Exactly. But here, you've got a decade-long gap, plus a completely different country involved. It shifts everything. It's less about immediate response and more about long-term intelligence gathering, almost like digging through old records. What makes a case like this so hard and also so interesting is seeing how authorities manage to keep that file active, to keep the pressure on for so many years.
Okay, let's set the scene back in 2013. Sattar Khan, the sources say he was living a kind of double life. He had connections, work jobs, both in India, his home, and also in the UAE. For years, apparently. And he was working in the Emirates in November 2013 when the tragedy happened.
The details are quite grim.
They are. He allegedly murdered his wife. Sources call it a brutal act. And the crucial part here is his reaction. He didn't wait around. Immediately after the crime, he used his knowledge of traveling between the two countries, fled the UAE, and just disappeared. Into the shadows, as one source put it. He left basically no immediate trail for the UAE police to follow him into India.
And that speed, that immediate border crossing, that was his biggest advantage right at the start. The second he lands in India, he's not just a local suspect anymore. He's an international fugitive.
Ah, right. Big difference.
Huge. For the investigators back in the UAE, suddenly they're facing diplomatic red tape, legal hurdles. They can't just send officers over to India to arrest him. So that border basically bought him time. A lot of time, as it turned out. A whole decade.
A decade. And he clearly used that time well in terms of evasion. 10 years living knowing there's a warrant out for your arrest in another country. How do you even manage that day to day? Sources say he moved cautiously within India. He seems to have stayed mainly in Telangana, near his roots. Just dedicated to keeping an extremely low profile, staying under the radar.
But think about what that actually means, staying under the radar for 10 years in a place like Telangana near Hyderabad. It's not just avoiding police patrols, it's probably avoiding official systems altogether.
Like banks, phones.
Yeah, exactly. Minimal financial footprint, maybe no registered phone, careful about who you talk to, where you live. It means cutting off almost all formal ties. Imagine the psychological strain of that, the constant looking over your shoulder.
It sounds exhausting. And you have to wonder, is perfect anonymity even possible for that long?
Well, that's the thing. In the modern world, probably not. Not truly. Even if you avoid the obvious digital stuff, social media, online banking, smartphones, your physical existence still creates ripples. You need a place to sleep, you need food, you probably need to contact someone eventually, even indirectly. And that constant need for caution over 10 years, it almost guarantees small flips, tiny mistakes. And those small mistakes, they add up. They become data points that investigators can eventually find.
Okay, so while he's living the shadow life, what's happening with the case itself? It started in the UAE, he's now in India. How does the investigation actually follow him?
That transition is key. It relies entirely on international cooperation and persistence. The UAE authorities, commendably, they didn't just let the case die, they kept it active. They kept pushing. And eventually, they formally handed over the pursuit, the whole case file basically, to India's Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI.
Ah, the CBI, India's federal agency.
And this isn't just a casual request. It involves formal treaties, mutual legal assistance agreements, sharing sensitive evidence, warrants, intelligence, all gathered under potentially different legal systems.
So the CBI is picking up a cold case, essentially, a decade old.
Exactly. They're inheriting old information, maybe translated reports, evidence collected years ago. They have to integrate all that into their own systems and then start looking for fresh leads, trying to figure out where this guy might be now based on, very little recent activity.
Which brings us to 2022. After nearly 10 years of him being a ghost, the ice finally cracks. The CBI gets their breakthrough. Sources mention them digging through technical leads and gathering human intelligence. Let's break that down. What does digging through technical leads actually mean on a case this cold?
Okay, so technical leads here probably means looking for that faint digital echo we talked about. Any tiny mistake he might have made. It could be things like analyzing old phone numbers associated with him or his family. Did any suddenly become active? Or financial trails. Maybe not him directly, but perhaps money moving through proxies, family members to support him. Also, things like ID renewals. Even if he lived off-grid, did he need to renew any kind of basic Indian ID at some point? That creates a record, a timestamp, a location.
Right, because even staying near Hyderabad, he'd still need some basic interaction with the world. And you mentioned human intelligence, too. That must have been crucial for pinpointing him.
Absolutely. Technical leads might give you a general area like the Rangareddy district, which is near Hyderabad, where they eventually found him. But human intelligence, that's what likely turns a district into a street, or even a specific house.
Talking to people. Informants.
Could be. Tracking down old associates, maybe monitoring family communications, using local police networks to ask around discreetly. Does anyone recognize this man from an old photo? Is there someone new living quietly in this village or that neighborhood? It's about combining that data trail, however faint, with actual eyes and ears on the ground.
And this combination, this meticulous work, it leads to this really dramatic climax. They didn't just knock on his door one quiet morning. They caught him at Hyderabad International Airport.
The timing is just incredible, isn't it? He was apparently trying to flee again. He was literally about to board a flight, headed to Doha in Qatar.
Wow. So after 10 years of lying low,
he makes a high-risk move. This is a classic fugitive pattern. You feel you've gotten away with it. Maybe you get complacent, maybe desperate. You decide to move again. And that act of booking a flight, checking in that, generates immediate actionable intelligence, a clear signal.
It really sounds like he forced their hand. If he'd just stayed put, maybe they'd still be watching, waiting, but trying to fly.
Very likely sealed his fate. It gave the CBI a precise time and place. They knew exactly where he'd be vulnerable. And that interception at the airport, just moments before he could potentially vanish into a third country, that's what ended his 12 years on the run.
Okay, so he's caught, he's in custody in India. But the crime happened in the UAE. You touched on this earlier. Why is he being prosecuted in India? This seems important for understanding how international justice works here.
Right, this isn't a standard extradition case where India just sends him back to the UAE for trial. It's based on a principle sometimes called concurrent jurisdiction. It's vital for cases like this. Because murder is a serious crime recognized in both countries, and because he's an Indian citizen captured in India, international agreements often allow India to prosecute him locally.
Even though the crime scene was abroad.
Yes, especially if the victim or perpetrator has ties to the prosecuting country. It's a way to ensure justice isn't completely lost just because someone crossed a border. Think of it as a pragmatic solution. It avoids potentially lengthy and complicated extradition battles, which themselves could become another way to delay justice for years. The principle is, a serious crime occurred, the accused is here, we have the legal framework, let's proceed. Justice served, albeit in a different location than the crime.
So the bigger picture here, the message this sends, it goes beyond just this one man, this one arrest. The sources really emphasize this idea of determination, that justice eventually can catch up no matter how long it takes or how far someone runs.
Exactly. It showcases the power of sustained, coordinated investigation across borders. It takes immense administrative effort, legal cooperation, sharing intelligence between agencies in different countries, potentially with different priorities. And that this cooperation held firm over more than a decade through changing times is quite remarkable.
And we also have to remember the human side beyond the investigation.
Definitely. The sources mention the resilience of victims' families seeking closure. For them, this arrest isn't just news, it's potentially the start of finally getting answers, of closing a horrifying chapter that's been open for 12 long years. 12 years knowing the person allegedly responsible was free. That's an unimaginable wait.
So this dedication, it wasn't just procedural, it was about accountability, about truth for those left behind.
Precisely. It's a stark reminder, really, of how these terrible events echo through people's lives for years, decades even, until there's finally some form of resolution, until the truth is faced.
What an incredible timeline when you lay it all out. A crime in the UAE in 2013, then a whole decade of careful hiding in India, finally ending at an airport check-in desk in 2022. All brought about by this mix of modern tech surveillance and classic human intelligence work.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? About the nature of information today. We talked about him staying under the radar, But even his minimal movements, his attempts to stay hidden in one region, ultimately generated enough noise, enough data points for sophisticated systems to eventually zero in.
His anonymity wasn't absolute.
It seems like it was more of a temporary shield, maybe quite fragile in the end. The technology and the methods now exist to connect very sparse dots over very long periods. That seems to be the key takeaway for investigators.
So perhaps a final thought to leave everyone with.
Yeah, think about this. In our hyper-connected world, with data sharing agreements becoming more common between countries, what would it actually take to maintain perfect silence, digital and physical, for 12 years? Was Sattar Khan's capture always inevitable once the CBI got involved? Or did his final mistake trying to board that flight just dramatically speed up an ending that was already coming for him? How possible is it truly to vanish anymore?
Something to definitely chew on. Thanks for walking us through this incredible case, and thank you for tuning into this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.